Hey, welcome to 49ers Coast to Coast. That's Jason Aponte on the East Coast. I'm Grant Cohn on the West Coast, and we are not single-handedly, but the two of us are bridging the East Coast, West Coast tensions that have just been really ravaging our community since 1996. Good to see you, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, Vibe magazine was the crux of this, right? Like, you know, with Death Row and Bad Boy. And Grant Cohn and Jason Aponte have been left to mend the fences and bring everybody back together. So take that, Puff Daddy, and
that's right.
Suge Knight.
Suge Knight in your face. Okay.
In your face. Oh.
Title of the show is how Kyle Shanahan has tunnel vision at quarterback. We're going to talk about that for a long time. It's Jason's topic. He has some interesting takes here that are very persuasive. I want to start with a little bit of news. Jimmy Garoppolo out indefinitely with an additional surgery on his foot, not at OTAs. Apparently, this was flagged before the Raiders signed him. They signed him anyway. They are jumping into the Jimmy Garoppolo experience with a lot of enthusiasm. This is what they wanted. I don't really care about Jimmy Garoppolo or the Raiders. The reason I'm talking about this is I think it has some implications on the 49ers. Like, their doctors looked at him. And this is yet another, is a pattern here. It's his second surgery to fix one injury. Trey Lance had 2 surgeries to fix one injury. And then you've had like other guys such as Raheem Mostert who had setbacks and was on the record saying he felt pressured to come back before he was ready. You know, Javon Kinlaw's had setbacks. Jerick McKinnon. There's been a lot of players that came back too soon or whatever. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be one of those until he pretty much shut himself down. Is there a pattern here, Jason?
There is for everybody not named Nick Bosa.
Yeah. Like, you know what he does? He gets the hell off the West Coast.
He's like, let me go do my own thing. Let me go heal on my own. I'm not a doctor. I don't know the severity of the injuries, right? So for anybody who's asking, why wasn't he issued a surgery while he was there? Well, that's not their problem since he was going to be a free agent the next year. If Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be on the contract, in my opinion, I think you have to make sure you take care of that and you make sure that he's good going forward. For this, it's more like, well, it doesn't matter. He's not going to play. We don't care about fixing him for his other team. And I just think that the Raiders are a little bit taken back by it. But here's the interesting thing about that, Grant. When you look at the timeline of the quarterbacks, Derek Carr's already left for the Saints. Aaron Rodgers is linked to the Jets. If the Raiders decide to balk at Jimmy Garoppolo, like Jarrett Stidham's not even there anymore. He's not even a Raider anymore. What are the options? So
my wife asked me that this morning, and I was like, I think they have a rookie named Aiden O'Connell, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's it.
That was her question.
So with the timeline, it's not even like they could say, okay, no, Jimmy, we're going back to Carr, or no, Jimmy, we feel good about Stidham. It was like, shit, man, we have to take this guy now and deal with this, you know, for a little while longer. So when it comes to the 49ers, I'm not sure what this says about them. These players, Jerick McKinnon had been injured before. Kinlaw, you knew, was coming in with injuries. I mean, even Jimmy Garoppolo was injured before he was here.
Let me be more specific.
It doesn't look good.
I asked you a bad question.
Unsettling. It's unsettling.
I asked you a bad question.
It's unsettling.
Yeah, let me get specific. So it's not that they didn't fix the issue with Jimmy and then he needed like another procedure. It's that it felt like they were pushing him to play at the end of the season. It was a little bit of a vibe, like they kept saying, "Oh yeah, you know, it's just a broken bone. He could be back. There's an outside chance. Keeping our fingers crossed." And then he didn't suit up in the last game, and he was smiling, and it kind of felt like they were hoping he would suit up, and he kind of said no at the last minute. There was all of that vibe, and now it looks like he's vindicated. Like, wait a second, I wasn't ready to go. You guys were pushing me. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves here. That's the way I saw it. And if that's the case, like, don't they do that sometimes? Like push guys to come back before they're 100% ready for whatever reason? And there's been some consequences to that.
That would explain why Kyle was so curt with the Jimmy Garoppolo question in the exit press conference.
He's done.
No chance.
He's gone.
Done. Like,
no chance.
So
meanwhile, they loved him after he played hurt after the Tennessee game, right? They just couldn't get enough of Jimmy Garoppolo. He was a whole different guy to them. So tough.
There's the best way that I can put it without being too abrasive or, going out on a limb is there's a
Right.
disconnect. There's a
Yeah.
disconnect for sure,
Yep.
right? Like the
Yep.
way Kyle acted at the end of the season and now all this news and everything as well too. It does seem like Jimmy knew what he was doing. On the other hand, let's play devil's advocate when it comes to this. If you're Jimmy Garoppolo, why would I press myself to get back out there? I've got another team that I'm going to
I
play
totally
for
agree
this
with
year.
that.
Yeah,
And
so
you
like
guys, you're not paying me. Like if I get hurt, then it just hurts. You'll move
first of
on, and
all,
I'm screwed.
I was your hedge bet,
Hmm.
right? Like your hedge bet,
Hmm.
basically, right? And then I get injured, and after basically putting you in a spot where we can still win games when I come on the field, and then you want me to risk my future with another team by playing. If I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I say no, and I don't care.
No,
I don't care because at the end of the day, if he goes out there and he loses to the Philadelphia Eagles, but he goes out on his shield and could never play
it only
football
hurts him.
again, it doesn't matter. 49er fans aren't going to put his numbers in the rafters. They're not going to care about that. So why should he care about any sort of helping them out in that way? He made some money in terms of showing that he was still adequate at the position, still a starting quarterback, which is what I believe he is. I don't think he had to do anything more, and I wouldn't have done anything more if I was Jimmy Garoppolo either.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like this kind of underscores, we always wonder, why do the Niners have so many injuries? There's a million reasons. One of the factors might be the head coach pushing his guys to come back a little too soon. I mean, Kyle's so desperate to win a Super Bowl. We all understand what's at stake for him. He's been on the precipice since January 2017, right there. He's desperate. And I see like there'll be weeks where he'll let his players take games off if they're hurt, like the Atlanta game. No one played in that game. It was like, look, guys, it's early in the season. They lost that game. The next week, it was all hands on freaking deck against Kansas City, week 7. Like, Christian McCaffrey, you've been on the team for 2 weeks, you're starting. Travarius Ward, you're 37% healthy, you're starting. Like, and that's just the culture. You have to go because Kyle has a lot at stake. And I think Raheem Mostert didn't appreciate that. He had a lot at stake too with his knee.
And again, that's the thing too, is and this isn't something that's just happening with the 49ers, but we only speak about the 49ers, so that's what really matters. But players always have to look out for themselves. Always have to look out for themselves, because when you're no good to an organization, the organization isn't going to say, oh, here's some free money for what you sacrificed for us. They're going to say, bye.
You're gone.
Yeah.
You're gone. You're replaceable.
So when I hear 49er fans get upset at Raheem Mostert for choosing himself over that, or even in this situation where it seems like Jimmy Garoppolo chose himself, was he supposed to choose you?
Right. Yeah, when you wouldn't choose him. Like, you're essentially asking him to sacrifice his foot for a game? Like, you can replace Jimmy Garoppolo. He can't replace his foot.
And quite frankly, a game that if Jimmy Garoppolo comes into that game, they still might not win.
And he probably gets smacked.
Right. And that's the thing. It's not like if it's a higher ilk caliber quarterback coming off of the bench, like let's say you had Aaron Rodgers in a bubble wrap for this whole time, and you know what, maybe you feel better about winning the game. The only thing Jimmy Garoppolo would have done was at least made the game more interesting and watchable, which is what the 3 quarterback rule is really about. It's not a 49er rule. It's about the NFL protecting their product. The NFL and America was robbed of a better game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers because Christian McCaffrey had to play quarterback. That's what the 3 quarterback rule is. It's not for giving you a third. If you have to get to your third quarterback in that game, doesn't matter who it is, it's likely you're going to lose that game. So if there was a third quarterback for the 49ers, it would have been a Jimmy Garoppolo who hasn't played in a long time on a foot that still probably wasn't fully healed. Doesn't mean they were going to win the game. It just means the game would have been more watchable.
We know now it was not fully healed. Like, he was not fit to play in that game. He should have been on IR.
It just makes the game more watchable. That's it. The NFL, the NFL is just protecting their product.
No doubt. No, the fact that they didn't put him on IR, the fact that they kept hope alive, fact that they said, it's all bad. Now that you found out that he needed surgery again, it's like, look, Jimmy, I ridiculed you a lot because you made a lot of money and you were a veteran. You ultimately weren't good enough. But, man, you got my sympathies on this one. So do you, Raheem. And so do you, Trey. Like, man, this is a troubling – you want to be a player-friendly organization. You can't have stuff like this happen, man, consistently more than once.
If I want to talk about a negative of this, it's you not putting him on IR and holding out hope when you probably could have gotten someone else off. Even if it's like Akash said to me on Twitter, even if it was Jacob Eason. Jacob Eason's a quarterback. who can throw the football at least. Doesn't mean you're going to win the game, but it doesn't rob everyone of a better game. And you know what? Maybe Jacob Eason throws a screen pass to Deebo Samuel that he runs through everybody and takes to the house and makes the game more interesting and keeps the 49ers defense off the field. That's the point. Yeah. So that's probably the thing that I'm more upset about is if you're holding out hope that he's going to play, and you don't fill his spot, then that's mismanagement. That's mismanagement.
You put yourself,
I will give you
exactly.
That.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm not trying to like kick the Niners in the groin here or get Kyle Shanahan, a low blow, but it's like, dude, any idiot can see this is a troubling pattern. And I feel like the Niners are just a little too aggressive or cavalier in their attitudes about injuries. And it's too bad because these are people's lives or careers. There's a lot at stake for them. Well, I know Kyle feels a lot at stake for him too, but he's going to be coaching for a very long time.
In one regard, I understand that, but I think there's a bigger issue of taking chances on players with checkered injury histories.
Sure.
Whether that's people out of college, or whether that's people in the NFL. Like Jerick McKinnon wasn't the model of consistency when it came to that. Jimmy Garoppolo was injured before he was here. You didn't know that was going to continue. So I do think it's a give and take. When you sign guys at discounted rates because other people don't want to touch them because of the injury history, and then they get injured, you can't really look at it like it's a shock. And I think that's where the 49ers are kind of lacking when it comes to those things.
Absolutely. We got Dustin saying predates Kyle Lapp's Cap's shoulder. No, it definitely does predate Kyle. There's a lot of things that go into it, but you can't deny that when a big game comes along, Kyle wants his best players out there. Injuries be damned, and he expects you. You're a tough guy. You're a football player. You should play at 80%. That's how he feels. And if you don't, I think he holds it against you, man. I think that's a big reason why they traded for Trey Lance, because I thought Jimmy Garoppolo essentially shut himself down in 2020. Was like, look, we suck. I'm not coming back for these last 2 games. Kittle did, though. Jimmy Ward did, though. A lot of people did. And then a few months later, he wasn't the franchise quarterback anymore. That's all I know.
I don't bash players either way that want to do that, right? Like if there's a guy who wants to go out there and he loves the game, and if he wants to love the game so much that he wants to go out there and play in meaningless games, more power to you. But if you want to take care of yourself and your body and your investment, which is your body,
gotta do it.
I'm not mad at that either. So it's 2 ways to look at that.
No, I agree with you. I just wonder how Kyle feels. All right, let's talk about Kyle Shanahan. This man has tunnel vision at the quarterback position, but he has tunnel vision in a different way. Well, explain Kyle Shanahan's tunnel vision in general, how he locks onto a player.
So when Kyle's fixated on a player and what he can do with that player, he loses sight of everything else. Yeah, I hate to keep banging the table on this, but Jalen Hurd and Terry McLaurin were both at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, yes, that's right. I'm so locked in on Jalen Hurd and what I think he can do. Handing the ball off, playing fullback, playing tight end. You missed probably one of the best wide receivers in football that was there.
Now, if I remember correctly, McLaurin was on Gruden's team. Mm-hmm. So now, still, like, you didn't coach him, but like he's in the building. You see him, man. You played again. Come on.
You see him. You've watched him. Yeah. You guys, your scouts did not know. It's not like they were unaware of Terry McLaurin.
You saw Debo. You saw Jalen Hurd. You totally missed Terry McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin's
focused on these 2 guys.
Because you're focused on these gadget things that you can do with Jalen Hurd, but there was a wide receiver.
Yeah, like Brandon Ayuk. Before Brandon Ayuk, faster Brandon Ayuk was there, essentially.
A guy who runs routes, is tough at the catch point, does it all. That's not good enough because I want to hand the ball off to Jalen Hurd from the X position. And
I want a tight end / fullback / wide receiver.
That's one of them.
/
You and I talked a little bit before about how when someone plays well against Kyle, oh man, I'm in. Like, I love that guy. He's great because he beat up on my team.
Made an impression on me.
Malcolm Smith, Quan Alexander, right? Like guys, Alexander, right? Like guys that have played against him. All right, I'm gonna drop a little nugget here. Everybody's gonna say, whatever, Jay, you don't know anything. Cool, whatever, fine. Don't believe me, but I'm gonna tell you. Spoke to a former player today, not someone on your team. So if you're screaming 49ers don't leak, former 49ers do leak. In 2020, the 49ers, and the game in 2020 that I'm referring to is obviously the Super Bowl. In 2020, the 49ers played 3 teams that have 3 players from each of those teams that were signed on day 1 by the San Francisco 49ers of the legal tampering period, each of them. The 2020 game in the Super Bowl, this person told me that the large discussion wasn't the game plan, but the large discussion was about a player on the Chiefs named Charvarius Ward.
Moody.
The Jets, the game plan was about Samuel Darnold.
Yeah. The greatest thrower.
The Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
The player's name was Javon Hargrave. All 3 of them signed as soon as it was legally tampering possible in the NFL. Yeah. When Kyle Shanahan gets it in, and look, let's be clear. Mooney's a baller, and so is Javon. So I'm not mad at you for having tunnel vision on guys that are very good players.
Right.
But Sam Darnold? The discussion around Sam Darnold in this game plan was he wouldn't stop talking about him. Yeah. And if you listen to the press conference that was just happening, the last 4 questions were about Sam Darnold. And this man gave paragraph answers. I know because I had to transcribe it and write it. I had to write about what he said about Sam Darnold. It took me forever. So What are we saying? It's the tunnel vision thing. Now, look, 2 out of 3 of those guys are very good. So it's good. Like, you got tunnel vision on those guys. But this Sam Darnold thing has gone way further than them just saying, hey, let's just take a chance on a guy that's available. No, first day, you went out there and you made sure to get that done. Everything that this person
like no one else could have Sam Darnold. You had to have him.
Nope. Yeah. And when Sam Darnold was asked in the press conference, did you get any other offers? I'm not ready to talk about that. He completely dodged the question.
Right.
Everything that this person told me.
The Niners scooped him up before there was an opportunity. Was there going to be a bidding war on Sam Darnold? Because there were so many teams interested in Sam Darnold's services.
Everything this person told me tracks. Everything. All of it. Because all 3 of those players that he mentioned, all 3 of those players, and all 3 of those players were signed as soon as it was physically, humanly possible.
Did this former player happen to mention to you what it was about Darnold that Kyle was so freaking impressed with?
He said he would not stop praising him and attributed it to a man crush. Literally. And that's what it felt like. Players can feel that, right? You're going out of your way to praise someone that's on the other side. And you're almost praising him more than you've given praise to people in that same room that are on your side.
Right. Like you won't praise Jimmy Garoppolo like that, right?
I understand praising Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
I understand praising Josh Allen. I understand praising Joe Burrow. But Sam Darnold is the one that you're just like, you cannot stop talking about. Even the people in that locker room are looking at you like, all right, dude, enough. We get it. You like him. But we'll be fine. And the 49ers
we're going to smoke him, and he sucks, but okay. Yeah.
The players in that room are like, he's not that good. We're going to blow them out.
Yeah.
But you won't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
It's just everything that was said tracked. Because you take information in and you say, okay, well, what? And then you think about it and you're like, wait a minute. All of these guys were signed immediately. Now let's take it a step further, Grant. Malcolm Smith, Quan Alexander, Jerick McKinnon, all signed immediately. As soon as humanly possible. Tunnel vision.
What gets me about Kyle is like he makes up his mind based on God knows what. Maybe one game, an impression, a first impression, a face-to-face impression, and then that's it. Like he had his mind made up in week 2 of 2020 that Sam Darnold was the truth. A lot has changed since then. That's 3 years ago. This guy's he's been a backup, a third-string quarterback. Like, despite all the new evidence, your feelings haven't changed at all. And that's the same thing with Quan. Like, you like Quan Alexander. He tore his ACL. And you still paid him like he didn't because you saw him play well one time in front of you. That's a problem. Like, why did they draft Ty Davis Price? He had that one good game against Florida. Why did they draft Trey Sermon? He had that one good game against Northwestern. Like, that's Kyle Why did they draft Joe Williams? He had that one good game against UCLA.
Well, I do want to ask you this, and you can push back on this because I'm genuinely asking you a question. When the 49ers hit on a running back later on, it's generally believed, Bobby Turner, he's cooking, right? Were those Kyle picks or were they Bobby Turner picks, though?
Got me. Right. I don't know. None of us know for sure.
No, I guess it was rhetorical, like the question. I just
But the reason I would assume Kyle picks earlier is I feel like he loses interest after like the third round, and he's like, all right, I don't care anymore. I don't know these players. But I don't know.
I really hope that's not true. Like I don't want to
I
hear
don't
that
know.
my head coach. I don't want to hear
Because
that my
those
head coach
third round
loses.
picks feel like Kyle picks, like Jake Moody, Cam Latu. Oh my God, those feel like Kyle picks. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe, but I don't want to hear that my
Doesn't mean
coach
they're
just
bad.
tunes out the draft from like the because if he does, then who are we giving credit to for all of the gems in the 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th round?
The front office, the people who are paid to do the freaking job. I just can see Kyle like waltzing in and be like, okay, these are really important picks. I'm going to make these. I'm like, all right, guys, you can do the rest. Like, okay, we can do our job now. We can do it. Okay, great. Thanks. We'll do our job.
Yeah. I think the overarching point here is Kyle just has it in his mind that these are his guys. And again, the 3 players that I named, 2 of them are studs. Mooney Ward's a stud. Javon Hargrave's a stud. You got that absolutely right. The Sam Darnold thing leads me to you were fixated on CJ Beathard. You're fixated on Kirk Cousins. You're not fixated on Watson or Mahomes.
Which offensive guy that he was fixated on, Weston Richburg, worked out?
McCaffrey? Debo.
Okay.
Debo.
Sure.
And
I'm talking like NFL players where he's like, oh, I coached against you and I had to have you.
Free agents.
Like, I guess McCaffrey. You know, they played against McCaffrey. They saw him face to face. He was on the team 2 weeks later. That's one. No. I'll give you Hargrave. I'll give you Ward. But in terms of offense, he's had a lot of these guys who like he knows he can make great players in his offense. Is like, no.
Ray McLeod?
Not yet.
I
actually think there's more meat on the bone there with Ray. He should get more touches.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
But not yet. And Juszczyk too, man. Like that guy is underutilized on this freaking team.
All right, so that's one.
Yeah,
but they're still not using him to. I feel the same way because anybody who's ever watched camp, OTAs, anything like that, when he goes 1-on-1 against anybody, he smokes them.
He's really good.
And that doesn't matter who you put, like Fred, anybody who you want to put on Kyle. Kyle smokes them, and he makes catches. Okay, throw him the ball if he's going to be on the ball.
Let him run routes other than leak. You know what I mean? Let him run actual choice routes and Texas routes, but they don't. I'll never understand that. You pay him all the money. He can do so much more than.
Don't say Texas route. He gets infuriated.
Who?
Rich Madrid. It's not.
My bad. Sorry.
It's not a playbook, man. It's a choice route. But to your point about leak, we got to have quarterbacks who can hit those, right? Because we still have.
Is Texas the concept?
Texas is just an angle route. Choice is basically an option.
That's why I said and. I was trying to include them both.
Well, what he says all the time is
Rich doesn't watch my shit anyway. That's all good.
Yeah, he doesn't watch tape anyway. Who cares? He's like, there's no Texas route in Shanahan's offense, man. He always yells at us when we say that.
He does
I
it?
always tell him
That's probably true. I haven't seen them run that. I like
No. Everything, because you can tell when they run the choice route, you can watch the receiver stack his hips like and like try to show one way and he breaks based on leverage. Like you can tell that. You can tell. Yeah.
Well,
but it's still funny. It's still
glad
funny
we got to the bottom of that one.
Still funny.
Sean says Jerick McKinnon too got him paid.
There you go. Sean knows.
Goodwin, I guess you have to put there. Shout out to Grant. You're a GOAT, and you too, Aponte. Jersey love.
Let's go, Fier. You had Viz back on. Boys are back together. The
boys are back in town. I realize like Philly and Jersey kind of like the two places in America that have that like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. Jersey is, it's not like an abbreviation, but Philly is. Like, don't call us Philadelphia, we're Philly. Like San Francisco, we're like, don't you dare call us San Fran. It's San Francisco. God. Get it right.
When I interviewed Jair Brown and I spoke with him, he said San Fran. Don't do that. I was like, oh no, you're gonna get everybody to turn on you. I don't get
Frisco
because I'm not from there.
Is you can say Frisco, but you can't say San Fran or SF. That's just no.
He said, and I was like, oh no. He said two things that I knew right away that I was like, 49er fans are gonna go nuts over. San Fran, and he said Niners Nation. It's not a nation, it's an empire, Grant.
One question I'd love to ask players off the record or just to mess with them is like, so how mad were you when you got drafted by a California team? How mad were you when you realized how much taxes you're going to be paying and what rent costs?
I didn't think of that. His mom was
a lot of these guys have no idea until they get here. They're like, what?
They don't.
They have no idea.
His mom was super excited. I can't wait to go to all the games. And I was like, Yeah, we see those taxes.
I can't wait to go to LA. He's nowhere near LA.
Right? It's the same thing with my friends. Well, when you go to training camp, why do you go to LA? Yeah, sure. Let's just drive 6 hours.
Yeah, it's like,
It's a
it couldn't be further away. My dad was
like,
from Brooklyn, and he got into Stanford for graduate school, and he literally thought it was in LA. No idea. Didn't know what the Bay Area was. It's way better, though. Okay, so OTAs, a little stock up, stock down. I'm curious, as someone who consumes 100% of the content but wasn't there, like, what was the impression that you got in terms of guys whose stock is up and stock is down?
Certain things were unanimous. Isaiah Oliver, I think everybody was unanimous with. Darrell Luter, they were pretty.
Those
unanimous.
are the two guys who had pass breakups, and that always stands out in 7-on-7, considering there's no pass rush.
To say that. You have to remember this. At OTAs, you're not going to get reports about defensive ends, offensive linemen, linebackers. You're going to get wide receivers and corners and safeties. That's all you're really going to get.
Safeties, tight ends. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. It's going to be pass catchers and secondary because they're the only ones who can really match up and still do things without contact, right? Because
correct.
The Patriots just got docked again for
you're not even supposed to do
some reason.
Yeah.
So
you can't even do press man coverage. You can't really do that.
That's what I'm saying. So you're not going to find out any of those things. But Darrell Luter, Isaiah Oliver, that sounded pretty unanimous. What also sounded unanimous was Drake Jackson has bulked up and put on that weight that we all thought he should have. That was one of the knocks when he was coming out was he needs to put on a little bit more weight, needs to put some more in his bag as far as pass rushing. That's a good sign. I want to ask you about the conflicting stuff, the stuff that, okay. So I'm going to get to what everybody wants to hear. Did Jake Moody miss a field goal or what? Okay.
Yes. Here's the thing. It's hard to actually see when you're on the ground, it's hard to track the football, but the 49ers pay for officials to be at practice, and there's one at the bottom, two at the bottom of the upright. So I don't know. The person who reported that he made it must have not noticed that the officials who were like, so that's why everyone else said he didn't make it because the official said he didn't. I don't know. Maybe someone disagrees with the official, but I'm taking the official's word considering he's right there and my ankle sucks.
And that's a good thing because I remember when we went to the joint practices against the Chargers, there was a lot of discussion about Trey Lance throwing an interception, and certain writers had it written down, Trey Lance threw an interception. I pushed back vigorously because I looked at the referee who was signaling incomplete because it hit the ground. He didn't get his arms underneath. It's very important to pay attention to the refs while you're there.
Get it right. The officials are paid to be there. They're 100%. Making calls. Don't 100%. Editorialize. It's not fan fiction.
And also, there's a lot going on. Let's be fair. Like, there's a lot going on, right? Like, it's not like they stopped the practices just so there could be kicks. Like, you make a choice to go watch the kicks because there's other things going on.
That's true.
So that's the thing with that. All right, but now the other.
But everyone wants to know how Jake Moody's doing, and there's a big difference between 3 for 4 and 4 for 4. Did he get it or did he not? I mean, so that's important because Zane hit it. No, Zane didn't. Excuse me, Zane missed it. So is Jake ahead of him or not? No.
Well, I want to ask you this: why is there a competition with a guy that you drafted in the 3rd round? He better be your franchise kicker. Is there a chance?
Hey, well, here's the way I look at it, man. If the 49ers will throw up their hands and abandon their 3rd pick in the draft that they spent 3 years of 1st-round picks on after 2 years and 4 starts, then no one's spot is safe. And Jake Moody, dude, if you look at Kyle Shanahan cross one time, if you miss 2 kicks, it's over, dude. And Zane's looking good. They don't care, man. Everyone praises the Niners when they do stuff like this. When they make a big investment, it doesn't work out, and they abort immediately. People are like, look at that culture they've created over there. No roster politics at all. It's like, yeah, or they have some horrendous picks, and they've gotten bailed out, or they don't know what to do with the picks they make sometimes.
Grant, if Jake Moody doesn't retire number 4 as the greatest kicker in 49ers history, I will never let this go because you know how much I hated this pick. But if you're going to draft him there, he better have his numbers in the rafters. Like, you better be unequivocally saying he is one of the best kickers in 49ers history because you chose to take him that high. Him losing a kicker competition, which I still don't think is going to happen, better not happen. Him losing a kicker competition and not making this team and them burning a top 100 pick on that.
It would be good. They've burnt way too many high picks, and they always get bailed out by these low picks, but you can't keep doing that again.
Moody's not getting cut, bro. But my point is, Zane Gonzalez is there for what? Bring somebody in who can compete at a real football spot, who's a football player, like another wide receiver, another linebacker. Like, why?
If you had to bring in Zane Gonzalez to hedge your bets and have a competition, are you really that confident in your third round pick? Do you really need to do that? You got the number one. You told us that you brought in Jake Moody because he's the best kicker in the draft and he's so good and he's always okay. So why is Zane here? Why is Zane here? Because you're not that confident in this rookie. You need to see it, right? You're hedging your bets, aren't you?
To troll Jimmy Garoppolo and wear number 10? That's the only thing I could.
Is he wearing number 10? Ronnie
is.
Bell's wearing number 10.
Yeah,
Two guys wearing number 10.
So yeah, the rookie, it doesn't matter. Like Gonzalez is wearing 10, he's wearing 10. But I think it's to like troll Jimmy.
How
like,
disrespectful for one of the greatest quarterbacks in franchise history.
And you know what? I don't like it either. You know what, Jimmy? If you're watching this, all the best, buddy. I hope you go and tear it up in Las Vegas, man. Go kick some ass, man.
I hope you get healthy and stay healthy. Man, poor Jimmy.
Well, all right. Not poor Jimmy, but back to this kicker thing. It's the idea that there's even an outside small chance that maybe Jake Moody doesn't make this team just highlights what a terrible pick that was. And don't tell me that, oh my God, Bill Belichick took a kicker in the 4th round. Yeah, that's stupid too. Bill Belichick's a great coach. GM, not so much. He really liked N'Keal Harry. He really liked
the two things people say about Moody is like he's got a really strong leg, so he can kick, touchbacks. Well, that doesn't.
Oh well, that's gone now.
They changed the rule. And then also like he's better from like 50 yards out. Why are you kicking 50-yard field goals? Go for it. You should be going for it on 4th down near midfield. This is the kind of offense that doesn't stall out in their own side of the or at midfield very much. Like they're not kicking lots of 55-yard field goals.
And
go for it.
My theory of picking up kickers at your local Trader Joe's and Walmart's, Brandon McManus was just cut by Denver. He would have been available right there for you to go grab him, and you could have signed him as well. The Jaguars signed him, and they cut their kicker. Yeah, kickers come available all the time.
All the time.
To sit here and say the last thing we needed to lock in place was our starting kicker.
But you didn't even lock it in place because he's competing with Zane Gonzalez, and right now it's a dead heat.
And the franchise kicker thing is non-existent. Justin Tucker wasn't drafted. Jason Myers wasn't drafted. Adam Vinatieri wasn't drafted. None of those guys were drafted because you find them. It's like Little Giants. When you find the one kid kicking the balls off the cans, and then you're just like, you want to kick for the team, and he becomes the kicker. Like that's literally how in the NFL you find kickers.
My fantasy is that one day they get rid of the uprights and replace them with the Arena League uprights, and people just stop kicking field goals because they're boring and no one likes them. And they suck.
Just make everybody go.
I hate them.
Let's just play football. Anyway, that's enough.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing I wanted to ask you was, and this isn't because I interviewed the young man. I'm a big fan of the young man and his maturity, his story, Jair Brown. And I also think that I'm very excited to see him on the field because much like Hufanga, when he was brought up, Tart was still there and so was Jimmy Ward. They still were forcing Hufanga on the field. Regardless of where you're drafted, regardless of what they have, they're going to force the guy on the field. I feel like Tig is in that lane where they're going to do that. Like I know Tashawn Gibson's here, and it's for a year, and I don't think that he's going to be blown off the field. But I was interested to hear that you said that he was looking good, but other people were saying that he was just whatever.
Jeez, what does whatever look like? I mean, he didn't get beat. He looks. That's someone else's assessment. He looks like he's in shape, like he's like he's ready to go. The way I look at it is like he's kind of in the Talanoa Hufanga mold. I mean, in terms of athleticism, they're very
exactly
similar.
What they're trying to get with him. Yep.
Right. And I remember Talanoa when he was a rookie. Like he didn't pop, he didn't start, he didn't pop. He wasn't a playmaker. He was just learning. And I think that's to be expected. This guy isn't going to be flying around the field. He doesn't have 4.4 speed. He's supposed to be instinctual, but he can't be instinctual when he's on his first practice learning the defense. Like there is a learning curve. Talanoa Hufanga experienced it. He came out the other side as a playmaker. So I think the expectation is if Brown has the same curve, he'll be as good or better, and that'll be next year. So they'll find ways to use him this year, but he's not going to be that right away. Talanoa started making those plays in his second offseason.
100%. And that's exactly what I think as well, too. They want two ball hawks, guys who play fast, can move around in the box as well, too. Steve Wilkes loves to run a lot of single high. So whether that means Hufanga is single high, whether that means Brown's going to be single high, doesn't matter because they're almost interchangeable and they're going to be able to do the same things in terms of creating havoc, creating turnovers. I think that's exactly their thought process when it comes to that. I want to talk about Ronnie Bell a little bit because next year, Jawan Jennings is a restricted free agent. Now, restricted means that the 49ers can obviously match any offer that any team offers him. But doesn't it feel like Ronnie Bell is a perfect replacement or just like he's there just in case? Because think about this, Grant. The NFL is trying to duplicate what the 49ers do on offense. Physical, run blocking guys who can beat you to the punch, that are dog in the run game, all of those things. And that's what Jawan is. So if other teams are looking to duplicate that, wouldn't they look to duplicate that with people from that system? And when you look at the pay increases year to year with Jawan Jennings, he went from $111,000 to $300,000 to $600,000 to $900,000 this year, and he's a restricted free agent. Doesn't it feel like if Kendrick Bourne can get paid by the Patriots, doesn't it feel like someone's going to pay Jawan Jennings to duplicate what they're trying to do? So doesn't Ronnie Bell naturally just feel like he's going to be pushed right into that?
Someone's going to pay Jawan, and it's not going to be the 49ers. So they're already thinking about replacing him a year ahead of time. And that's where Ronnie Bell comes in. He's a slot receiver. He looks like a pure slot receiver. He's not big like Jennings, but he's faster than Jennings. He can do more down the field. He has a bigger route tree. Probably isn't the blocker Jennings is, but Jennings isn't even – he's kind of like a tight end slot receiver hybrid. Like this guy could actually play outside a little bit, Ronnie Bell, and he doesn't look that explosive or big, but he just catches a lot of passes. I don't understand how he does it, but clearly everyone has confidence in him. He has confidence in him. He's just one of those guys where the ball ends up in his hands a lot. So those guys make the team.
Okay. Who else? Now I'm gonna let you go because you were there. Who else were you very much impressed with?
I'm watching Ty Davis Price and Danny Gray. They need to show something. And I felt at least Ty Davis Price was running a whole lot harder than he did last year. He looks like he gets it and that he understands he's on the chopping block, and they don't need to cut him. I mean, they could probably keep the undrafted free agent Kalen Laburn on the practice squad and have them both if they want, but Ty Davis Price has to actually be better than him. So I'm watching him. He looks better. And then Danny Gray, I mean, he had the play where he beat Luter Jr. off the line of scrimmage, and he looked open. The pass was a little underthrown. I mean, that was my impression of it. I'd like to see it again if I could, but
you
had a step on him.
Said that.
He had a step on him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's encouraging. Like Danny Gray did his part, and Sam Darnold, one of the greatest throwers of all time, just couldn't get it to him on that one particular play. And sorry. So Danny Gray, I'm looking at him too. With Drake Jackson, yeah, he's big, but again, like, are you an edge rusher or are you Arden Key? Like, are you 275 pounds now? Like, he doesn't really look like an edge rusher to me. And when they brought him in, they were talking about how he, could sort of bounce back and forth, and they used him a lot on stunts. I still think they're going to use him like that. So I'm curious, is Austin edge or what is the plan there? I don't know. I
want to ask you about someone, and remember, Danny Gray was also a third-round pick. I want to ask you about another third-round pick. This is it for Ambry Thomas, right?
I think it is. He looks the same. He did the same thing where he's just like in the area code watching guys catch passes. Like, dude, when was the last time you made a play? You haven't made a play since 2021 playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand what happened, but it's not looking good for Ambry.
I think Ambry Thomas is a case study on why DeMeco Ryans was so good, because he found ways to mask what he was doing. There was no real growth there, but the fact that we're hearing about Darrell Luter, you're hearing about obviously Isaiah Oliver's a nickel, but it's frustrating. Again, third round picks. Danny Gray, you're on the clock. Ty Davis Price, you're on the clock. Ambry Thomas, you're on the clock. All third round picks.
Yeah,
those aren't toss away picks,
no.
Right? How is it that you can get something from 7th round pick Jawan Jennings for year after year? You can find something in Talanoa Hufanga, an all pro, but
Fred Warner was a third round pick.
Yeah, that's the only one. CJ Beathard was.
But I'm saying, like,
pick.
If you can get a potential Hall of Fame player, a captain, an all pro, you should be able to. You shouldn't strike out. It's way too important of a round. You can get quality players there.
What is it about the third round? Like, I think Tig
Jalen
is going to be
Hurd,
great. I think Tig's going to be great. Jalen Hurd. I think Tig's going to be great. But look, Jake Moody, Ladu.
Cam
I like
Latu,
again. Yeah, like I that's the same thing. Like, it's just what
tunnel
is it
vision.
about the third
Kyle's
round?
tunnel vision.
Back to
Because
tunnel vision.
we know how he operates in free agency and the trade market. So let's take it to the draft. I think it's fair to assume that he falls in love with 4 or 5 players or less and says, I don't care. You guys can take whoever the hell you want, but I want Cam Latu. I want Jake Moody. Make it happen. So if you give your team that directive, then they're going to have to reach to get these guys to guarantee that they get them for you because you're their boss. So Cam Latu goes in the end of round 3 when everyone thought he was going to go in round 5 because you didn't have a 4th round pick and you told these guys I freaking want him. I'm guessing. So, I mean, that's all of his misses are in round 3. I feel like that's a Kyle. How could you be so good in round 5 and so bad in round 3? Doesn't make any freaking sense if the same person's making the picks.
Really doesn't, because I think Braden Willis, who you said made a great catch and literally saved an interception for Sam Darnold, I think he's probably better than Latu. And
Yeah.
it's, again,
At least as a receiver.
it's all moot. It's all moot because third round, if it doesn't matter where you draft them, if they become what they become, like Hufanga is all pro, like, whatever, like, you have other guys, Kittle, other guys who have produced, but damn, the third round's still a good place for you to find. It's much easier to find, in my opinion, guys that are ready to contribute almost immediately in the third round, and many teams do. I mean, the Washington Commanders got Terry McLaurin in the third round.
Also think about this, right? The Niners, their whole operation, they get praised for it, is third round comp picks. You get these coaches, you promote them, they leave, you get third round comp picks, you're doing a great thing for the league, and you're like creating capital, and then you throw it away. And no one talks about it.
And then this year, especially because you don't have first and seconds, thank God next year we can go back, Grant, to looking at first and second round talent. I was like watching first and second round guys, and I was like, man, I wish,
I
but
miss
we
those
can go
days.
back. Yeah, we can go back to that now, unless something happens that changes all that. But in a draft where you start in the third round, and I think we talked about this like one of the last times that we spoke, it's arrogant to kick away a pick, no pun intended, on a kicker.
Yeah.
When you could have had an Isaiah McGuire, who's an edge guy, for a team that needs rotational edge guys, and it seems like they're moving towards developing their own guys.
Right.
You're kicking away these picks, no pun intended again, and just saying, well, we need.
And remember, 4 years ago, they could have drafted Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but they got cute, traded down like 5 spots, and drafted Mitch Wishnowsky. And Tony Pollard was still on the board. Like, it's cool. You could tell yourself, like, we're really good. We don't have a bunch of needs, and we'll just take the best specialist here. Okay, but guarantee you're gonna end up passing on someone who's way more impactful.
And
guarantee it.
War of attrition happens. Guys get injured. That are supposed to be impact players for you all the time. That's why it's important to build depth every single time that you get it. Not say, well, I need.
Oh, we don't have an immediate need in our starting lineup. Right.
Right. Like so just because you have all your starters set, which you do, and that's something that not many teams have that luxury.
Right.
That means that now it's time to stop addressing your depth for a team that's been as oftenly injured as the San Francisco 49ers and take a kicker as high as they did. It's an arrogant pick. It's arrogant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it absolutely is. Chris says Juice should be tight end too.
I agree. Ross Dwelly might not make this team anymore.
Yeah, honestly, official BNA Music 88 says Moody season stopped by the new rules. Sorry, Jason.
I'm glad they got a kicker who can kick touchbacks. Oh, wait, it doesn't matter anymore.
Chris Telerico says if Brock's QB1, you need the kicker to be able to hit a 50-yarder. Drives are going to start stalling once the D breaks out cover 1.
So I want to address this real quick because I did see that someone said that Seattle kind of left the blueprint and they didn't have the defense to finish it out that Dallas did in terms of like so cover 1, man press robber. I think that's what they were saying, which, if you guys know the robber concept, it's basically you have a guy who follows a receiver to a certain point and then you pass that receiver off to another linebacker or safety or whatever it is, and you're able to just move and continue to have everybody covered.
Well, I
don't know.
Real simply, it's like you have a free safety deep, single high, cover 1, and then you have like a middle linebacker like in front of him, playing zone and just reading the quarterback's eyes and breaking on slants left and right. And then you have everyone else man to man. So instead of having two safeties, you have a safety and a linebacker. And it's like, we don't respect you, your arm deep. We're taking away the throws over the middle, short and long.
And at times, you know, what'll happen is a corner, maybe an inside corner who will have a guy will play the corner and then drop off of him and move to another guy. And the linebacker's got him because he's been in the same spot.
Fair. Sure.
I don't know if that's true. Like, I'm just saying what I saw, and this is obviously what Chris is talking about. I would have to look at that a little bit more. I'll be honest with you. Once the Philly game was over, I stopped. Like, I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, I'm completely unplugged. I haven't gone back and watched that game.
Go back and watch the Seattle game in the first half. There were a lot of plays. Brock gets like 2 or 3 passes broken up by a linebacker who's just not covering anyone. It's man all around him, and he's keying on Brock's eyes and breaking up slants. And then I don't know if they got away from that in the second half or the Niners just ran it up with yards after the catch or whatever. But in the next game, Dallas did the same thing. Dan Quinn used to coach for Pete Carroll, and they're a way better defense than Seattle's, and they held the Niners 19 points.
That's the thing is a team can leave some breadcrumbs for you, but they didn't have the personnel to get it done, right?
Right.
But they can leave breadcrumbs for you. Like, you know, Dan Quinn probably watched that film and said, oh, I see this, and we have this guy and this guy that can do that. And he knows how to coach that up a little bit better. I don't have a strong opinion.
Why did Seattle draft that corner with the 5th pick? Because if they're going to be playing cover 1, they need someone who can actually man up against Brandon Ayuk. They didn't have that guy last year. Now they do.
Witherspoon and Woolen. Man,
yep.
I don't like
so now they can play cover 1 and feel confident about, because it's tough. You can say, yeah, just play cover 1 against the Niners, cover 1 robber. Okay, who's covering Ayuk? I want to know. Because if you don't have someone, like, he'll just shred you one-on-one.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So that's important.
But if you have the personnel to get it done, and that's what I think the point that Chris is making is, in the playoffs, you're not playing
teams have
you're
those.
not playing the Carolina Panthers, you know.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Bryant Culp says everyone needs to compete. Kickers matter. Kickers matter in the sense that all lives matter. They do. All kickers matter. Have you heard people call the Draymond Green offense the all lives matter offense? No, the Steve Kerr motion offense, the all lives matter offense. It's like, no, would you just put the ball in Steph's hands? It's the all lives matter offense. Is the 3rd for Kyle what the 7th round is for Adam? Adam
Peters. Like, Adam Peters is the one who takes over at the end of those draft. At the end,
I don't know. Some people say that Ambry was Adam's pick,
and that's in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is, while we say tunnel vision, we at least know that there are certain players that Kyle covets and skill set. Like Ronnie Bell. See, this is the thing. Ronnie Bell feels like a Kyle Shanahan receiver in the 7th round. But you can look at other guys, right? So if Adam Peters says, that's why it's so funny.
Jalen Hurd was such a Kyle pick.
That's a Kyle pick. That's a Kyle pick. Debo was a Kyle pick as well too. That's a Kyle pick. But it's funny how people assign picks to certain players, to certain people in the front office.
Bethard. Kyle.
That's Kyle.
Round 3.
That's Kyle.
But no, Fred Warner, Jair Brown, hard to say. Those are interesting. Those are good picks.
Jair feels like Steve Wilkes had a real big hand in that. And speaking with him, he said that he was adamant when he was talking with Steve Wilkes about how excited he was. Like, and
okay, so
I don't know
if let's be clear. So Steve Wilkes brought in Jair Brown.
Yep.
Darrell Luter Jr.
Isaiah Oliver.
And Isaiah Oliver. That's 3 potential starters.
He said the best nickel corner available was Isaiah Oliver.
Okay, so my first impression of Isaiah Oliver, he's big and long.
Yeah.
Like he wears number 22. He reminds me of Carlos Rogers. Carlos Rogers was 6 feet as well. So he looks like Carlos Rogers with twice as long his arms. Like it's crazy. His length.
And the other thing that I noticed, because I had to watch him before I wrote anything with a strong opinion about him, the run defense. Like he is not afraid to mix it up. And I think that's really important. I think that's a lot of what K'Wan Williams brought.
Yep. And for sure, Jimmy Ward. So if Diamador Lenore doesn't stick outside, I don't think they're going to move Diamador Lenore to the slot. I feel like that's Oliver's spot for sure. Ethan M says, can you see Ronnie Bell emerging and Debo becoming a trade piece for midseason? Lots of talent at the wide receiver spot, and I bet they'll need a pickup later. I'm getting tired of Debo, I swear, man. I am.
Why?
But
Now you gotta explain this one to me.
I'm getting tired of him, man. Now, if he shows up to training camp in great shape, then all good. I'm not tired of him anymore. At that point, he's one of the better players in the team. But it's like, dude, last year sucked for your standards. Like, it was a down year for you, and you didn't come to OTAs. You didn't even show up. Like, show everyone that you care and that you're in good shape. That's how I feel. But if he shows up for minicamp in 3 weeks and he's in great shape, and then whatever. I'm just annoyed right now.
Is this because he blocked you?
Yes. 100%.
He said yes.
Unblock me.
No, look, I do think, again, the 49ers almost have $10 million left to play around with. If they are going to make a trade mid-season, it's definitely going to be one of those all-in expiring deals, and it would be for one of two positions. Edge.
The end.
Right or tackle. Offensive lineman. Yep, that's it. That is it.
That's right.
It's either Colton McKivitz or somebody on this offensive line has a disastrous injury, and you're able to find somebody who you can plug and play and make a move for. It would be on either side, but it would be edge if I was guessing.
You say that knowing full well that they're going to trade for a running back.
I swear to God, why would they do that?
Because running backs get hurt. Running backs get hurt.
But look. Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel. You got 3 running backs right there that you can use and sparingly. And
was it last year we were like, they got Wayne Goldman? I mean, they're deep at this freaking position.
Play Jordan Mason. What the hell, man? Jordan Mason's a dog. And the other thing is if Laborn comes into camp and does what Jordan Mason did, then tight end his price is Trey Sermon, and both of those were third round
picks.
Good God. Grant.
Good God. They got to chill with this. I mean, their whole operation is built on getting third-round comp picks and then throwing them away. Oh, my God. We turned Robert Saleh into Jake Moody. Like, really? That's the best you could do?
We turned Mike McDaniel into Ambry Thomas. I'm just like, oh, my God, man. What are we doing?
Who's the new boombox guy got to play the new Dirk? His official beat in Music 88.
I don't know, man. Grant, what's up?
I don't know.
You taking applications? Would you
do would I do it? No.
Would they allow you to play your music? If you were allowed to be the boombox guy, because you have exquisite hip hop taste, but I do think that Deebo and a lot of those guys pick those. What's the song you're coming out with?
What's the song I'm coming out with? I don't know, but I feel like it should be something from the Bay. They always play something like Lil Baby or something. It's like, come on.
No. Again.
It should be like anthemic. The Raiders, I remember at Raider games, they used to play corny MC Hammer, but he used to play like Oaktown. They would play that every time. It would get people hyped.
The views of Grant Cohn on MC Hammer do not reflect mine. That man is really an OG. Like, he don't play. So
he is an OG.
I didn't say that.
No. Sorry, MC. I didn't. But it's like people think of MC Hammer as being kind of corny. Like,
no. Opposite. Quite the opposite. Yeah. Quite the opposite.
Yeah, that's true.
I know that. I'm not playing around with MC Hammer's
Don't get caught talking slick about MC Hammer. He runs his town.
No. He'd run it down.
Hell no.
Remember Pumps in the Pump?
That's true. That's true. Too legit to quit, baby. I'm the new boombox guy. All right. So OTA, stock up, stock down. It's been one practice. It was 7-on-7. Mm-hmm. And what sucks about OTAs is it's just a snapshot. Like, they practiced today and we didn't get to watch. I'm mad about it. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe Sam Darnold lit it up and we didn't get an opportunity to sing him his praises. Because when I saw him in person, I'm just not impressed. Not impressed. He doesn't have any it factor. I know he throws a nice ball or whatever, but he just is painfully not confident. And at the podium, on the field, it just doesn't look confident at all.
Can I play devil's advocate just a little bit, for
please?
For argument's sake. Okay.
I want it.
It's like his second day in the system.
That's fair,
right? Look. If I was
to be fair, I wasn't impressed with Brock Purdy at any point last offseason. I watched him every day, and I was like, I had enough.
Oh, no, wait a minute. What are you talking about, Grant? He lit it up all training camp. He lit it up, and the 49ers knew. That's why they brought back Jimmy Garoppolo and threw him on the practice squad. Like, don't let people lie to you. Like, there were days where this man, Brock Purdy, didn't even get on the field. He did as much as Robbie Gould.
Also, in practice, he threw a lot of short passes. It wasn't that impressive. When he throws short passes in the NFL, it's like, oh my God, it's completion to Christian McCaffrey. Look at him go. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, like, it's Christian McCaffrey.
Look, I'm not trying to belittle what he did on the field. I am trying to bust this narrative that Brock Purdy was lighting it up at training camp when there would be days that he would take 2 or 3 reps and do nothing.
Yeah.
He threw the first interception in training camp, the first one, and it was a bad interception. So, and honestly, I hate when people say, they knew what they had. If they knew what they had, they wouldn't have signed Jimmy Garoppolo. They would have went into the season with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. And when Trey Lance went down, we got a guy, Brock Purdy. Don't let people lie to you like the 49ers.
You know when they knew what they had with Brock Purdy? When Jimmy went down and Brock Purdy started playing well against Miami. That's when they knew what they had. They had to learn when we learned. They learned when we learned.
And that's
at the same time.
And they understand the other things, right? Like he understands the field. Like I'm not taking away what he did on the field. I am not. I am trying to bust this narrative that the 49ers knew that they had this uncut gem that was sitting in the way. And they were just like, we're waiting to unleash him. No, they didn't. And don't let anyone lie to you.
Also, he's not an uncut gem. He's not an uncut gem. He's a young quarterback who was inserted in a great team, and he's better than Jimmy. That's what we know about him right now. That's all we know about him.
And you and I were at the, I mean, obviously you were on the field, right? But we're at the same amount of practices. Once Nate Sudfeld went off the field, they went right back to Trey Lance. It's not like they were rotating Brock Purdy. Yeah, like Brock Purdy might come in 1-2 plays, boom, back.
Okay, here's what it was. So on Tuesday, Lance got 17 throws. Darnold got 15. Brandon Allen got 7. That's what it was like. Like last year, Brock Purdy was Brandon Allen. Like, so he'd get his little 5-7 throws, but like it was against rookies and it was really hard to analyze him. Chris Tallarico says they got lucky Dak-dacked. The right side of the other line, Brock's limitations in the schedule are going to create some long third downs.
Chris is not a Brock Purdy believer. I'm not trying to take away what Brock Purdy did. What he did was nothing short of amazing, considering last pick in the draft, a guy who was thrown into the fire, looked like the part. Like, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that there's this narrative out there from people who were actually at training camp as well, too, that he was dominating and he barely even got on the field on certain days, man. Like,
it's true.
I don't get that part.
I mean, but again, like Brandon Allen dominated, quote unquote, on Tuesday, 7 for 7. Did anyone talk about it? Now, if Brandon Allen like starts during the season and goes on some unprecedented run that no one sees coming, people will be like, "I saw it coming. I said it at the time." It's like, no, like we're all joking about it. We're all joking about it right now. But if it happens, then there'll be revisionist history. Chris Tallarico says again, should let Trey start as long as possible before they have to decide on that 5th-year option. More malpractice if they don't, and he emerges elsewhere.
Did you hear what Rich Eisen said?
What?
So Rich Eisen, who I got to meet at the combine, and I asked him a question about, is it trade time? And he was like, well, it's got to be now, right? Because Brock was injured. We didn't know the severity of the injury at the combine. And Rich Eisen said that he believes that if Brock Purdy's ready to go, then Trey Lance has to be traded because his 5th-year option is because he's a third forget it.
He needs to play this year before that 5th-year option comes up, right? Yeah.
Well, and you have to make a decision. He said, you trade him and let someone else make that decision. On that.
Yeah.
And he said the only way that really happens is if there's someone who gets injured in training camp. Okay. So this is all just going to tie right back.
So they're waiting for the Sam Bradford thing to happen?
Correct. And when it doesn't.
Which never happened for Jimmy.
Right. And when it doesn't.
Yeah.
You're going to have your 3. So good thing that the 49ers can carry 3 quarterbacks. They'll have all 3.
Tony Montana, legendary candlestick memory. That just popped in your mind? Out of nowhere?
No, because you're talking about the boombox. That's like that. That was like the big.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, like the box.
That's cool.
Or like that whatever song Kodak Black. I don't want to hear that. I go like out to a party and the box would come on and like I see like the Vietnam like helicopters because I just remember that 2019 Niners season and how it ended.
All right, man. Well, that was a good show. We got another practice next week. There'll be more to discuss next week. They haven't told me yet. I'm guessing Monday or Tuesday.
See, that's a lot of people are asking me like, oh, what are the dates that the media are going to be there? I'm like, I know it's one more day, but nobody's been saying anything. So we have no idea.
They're very cryptic about it. Hold on. We got one more and then we're out. Chris Tallarico says, it's not that I'm not a Brock guy. It's that you can see his ceiling. I agree. Okay. Yeah, 8 starts, but it's not like he's throwing 60-yard bombs. Yeah, agree. He's throwing the 20-yard passes Jimmy was. Yeah, agree. I want to see what Trey has. Yeah, agree. I would have to agree with that. I'm sorry.
No.
And when people say hey, if Trey did what Brock did, you'd be really excited about that. Yeah, but that's living in this theoretical world where Brock and Trey are exactly the same size and have the same skill set, and that's not the case. Like Brock can go on this winning streak, but like just like Tua. Tua was 8-0 at one point. I'm looking at Tua being like, still skeptical. I'm sorry. It's a nice run. I'm still skeptical. It's still Tua.
Well, I think it's fair to say a few things. 1, Brock Purdy impressed you last year. 2, Brock Purdy might not be that same guy going all the way forward. 3, Brock Purdy might be that guy. 4,
Yeah.
Trey Lance
Yeah.
might be that guy. 5,
Yeah.
Trey Lance might not be good. We're going to get some of these questions unanswered one way or another.
Yeah.
One way or another, they're going to be unanswered because I have the feeling, and this is how I knew in the press conference. Does it mean anything that Trey Lance took the first team reps? What was the first word? Kyle said no. No, and we will even it out. And he literally wanted to stomp that narrative out immediately. Did Trey take the first snap? Yeah, he did, but I'm interested to figure out what you guys think is the first team since there's no offensive line and we don't have our receivers. Like, he couldn't wait. Could not wait to stomp all over that first team. So for the people that are like, well, Trey took first team, Kyle Shanahan's doing everything he can to throw water on that fire. Everything.
Yeah. Well, it's because Sam Darnold's the greatest thrower in franchise history.
I love you, Kyle, but like, yeah, I'm noticing it, man. It's there. I gotta be objective. Got
to. Hey, your biggest fans are starting to notice it, Kyle. It's time to ratchet down the rhetoric. Jason, thank you very much.
Appreciate you, Grant. Boys are back, man. Visiting Jay. Let's go, man.
Back. Yeah. I'll be back when you least expect it, guys.